Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Cancer, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of July 2023. Happy birthday season to you. I hope you're well. I'm using the Tarot of the Abyss for you today. So before we begin, if the reading resonates and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's the first link in the description box. Second link in the description box is to my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, which is over on the Circle platform. You can get access to all the extended content for no extra cost. Hang out with an extraordinary group of people and get involved in some interesting discussions. We've also got some classes and things running over there. So if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, Cancer, you know what to do with that link. Now, let's get straight on and see what's going on with you. Can I have 3 cards for Cancer, please? Yes. Hey, there we go. Right, we've got the Queen of Swords in your recent past. Let's flip the camera. I forgot what the buttons did there for a second. There we go. So you can see what I'm looking at. There's the first card. What current energy for Cancer, please? Oh, that pops out much more happily. Right, we've got the 9 of Cups. Beautiful. One more card. What's coming towards Cancer for July, please? We have the 9 of Wands. Right, don't be concerned about that because I'm not. Just show you the card as it is. The camera should adjust in a second. We have the 4 of Wands at the bottom of the deck, which is absolutely beautiful. You will note we have no major arcana on the table at the moment, and I like that. I like that a lot for you, actually. Did I not call your reading last month you are a fucking magician or something? I'm fairly certain it was something like that. Yeah. Upset some people with my use of profanity, but you know, I've been here for 4 years and this is what I do. If you don't like it, then there are many other tarot readers to choose from. So I like it because the importance in the understanding of yourself as a fucking magician is that everything begins, Lord. Sorry about that. Everything begins and ends with you. It's important to have all of the elements on your table, but also combine them with your will to manifest whatever it is that you're looking to bring forward for yourself, right? That's the essential essence of the magician. So to have minor arcana cards coming out, which is very much about what you do, what you think, what you feel, those kind of things, means I think that you're taking this very seriously, and I am overjoyed that we have the 9 of Wands here joining the 9 of Cups, and I'll get into why that is shortly. Let's get some clarifiers out on the table, and that should help the camera adjust as well. So tell me about the Queen of Swords, please. We have Ace of Cups in reverse, interesting, and the 4 of Swords, lovely. Tell me about the 9 of Cups, please. Ooh, cute. We have the Queen of Pentacles in reverse and the Ace of Wands. And what about the 9 of Wands, please? 3 of Wands. Ooh, and whatever that is, King of Wands, Lord. And we have the Tower. Beautiful, camera's adjusted. The Tower at the bottom of the deck. I love this. There's one major arcana card in this entire reading, which is, you know, even statistically is kind of less probable. The frequency that the cards come out should roughly be, well, let's see, we have 22 major arcanas and 56 minor arcana. We'd expect to see 1 or 2 more major arcana cards if this was just a case of statistics, and it's not. Like, it feels to me like the energy of the Tower is something that you are channeling at the moment. Now, a lot of people get really upset about this, about the Tower, and you can see why. I mean, it's quite a dramatic card. Just have a look at it there. You know, it's called one of the scary cards in the tarot because it's sudden change. It can be a shocking upheaval in some sort of way, right? But what the Tower actually is a clearing of energies that allows you to take usually a fairly sharp 90-degree turn from the path that you are on onto something that is much more aligned with you. right? It's ruled by Pluto and Scorpio, and we have these themes of regeneration and rebirth that come through whenever we're dealing with anything of a Plutonian nature. But it feels like it's very much intentional in your part. And I say that because of the cards that we have coming out on the table to accompany it. Every single one of them is minor arcana. It's about what you do, what you feel, what you think, and the way that you manage all of those sensory inputs to start moving towards something. And be under no illusion, Cancer, there's movement here, there's huge movement, and I'm actually overjoyed about it. But the really important thing, I think, the thing that's helping you to do this, to align all of your energies in terms of the direction of travel that you want to go, the ways in which you want to change your life, are all coming about by way of reflection. They're coming about by a way of understanding where you have been, what's been going on with you, the purpose of the experiences that you've had. Those kind of things, right? And we see that in the Queen of Swords. We just get a drink of water, my mouth's really dry. The Queen of Swords is Libra energy for me. And she brings with her these themes of discernment, right? What the Queen of Swords does is she takes a great deal of information and she passes it. She seeks to understand it. You know, she's very quick-minded. So this process is something that comes easily to her in a way that it might not necessarily with the other queens. There's a mental dexterity to it. And I love the fact that there's a maze. Behind all of the swords cards, the court hierarchy of the swords, there is a maze in the background. And it's this notion that that the way forward isn't always entirely clear. But we rely on what we understand to guide us in some way or another. Now, you could say that that would be an intuitive move. And, you know, Cancer, it's you. Obviously, intuition is going to play a large part in this. But I think it's actually the making sense of what you feel, understanding why you have felt like that. It's really coming down to a quite dramatic understanding of self that we have going on here. And with this Ace of Cups in reverse and this Four of Swords, right, there's an essential understanding here that for the longest time you did not love yourself. And that's quite a profound realization to come to. It can be quite a painful realization to come to, but it doesn't last long because, you know, we don't have cards of emotional pain and, you know, drawn out agony here. We have a desire to understand. We have a desire to kind of pull this apart and look at the component bits of it. And it be, you know, the essential proposition is you did not love yourself. The question is why? How did this arise? What was the cause of this? And it's not going to be one thing, Cancer. It's going to be a multitude of things. There's a whole, you know, multiple streams of input on this one. And this is why the Queen of Swords is here. She's like, yeah, right, Kai, I understand that this has been painful and this has hurt, but I'm more interested in how we got here in the first place, so that once we do reach that point of comprehension, we can take all of the baggage that isn't important and we can put it to one side. We can concentrate on the act of turning the cup the right way up. And we see it here with the Four of Swords. I mean, that sometimes can talk about a step back. And for sure, there's a detached way that you're engaging with this process. But it also talks about healing because it follows on from the Three of Swords. You know, the focus here is not on anything to do with feeling like a victim or anything to, you know, feeling like the universe has been vindictive or people have been vindictive or anything like that. It's a much more kind of like, yes, well, those are the feelings that I have about it, but I'm not my feelings, and feelings are transitory. What's more important to me now is that I understand it, because you seem to me to be focused very much on the path of healing instead. Now, you know what I said at the beginning there about, you know, the essence of the magician being this combination of the potential of all of the elements, right, and the received wisdom on the elemental structure of everything is that it's just different ratios of all of the elements. So sometimes there's going to be more water and correspondingly less earth, air and fire. But to make something else, you're going to have to combine them into a different ratio. And it's your will over the top that dictates what kind of experience you have, what kind of manifestation is brought forward. So the Ace of Cups becomes very important, particularly important for you, Cancer, as a water sign, to take it from that point of not caring for yourself, not loving yourself, not forgiving yourself or being compassionate to yourself, perhaps seating the point of emanation for your feelings in other people. We're talking about looking for validation in other people and all that kind of stuff, right? And how that always dries up eventually. It never gives you what it is that you think that you want. In the process of turning this the right way round, we understand that all things are possible. We understand that all feelings are possible. And, yes, that includes the bad feelings as well as the good feelings, but it is deeply held belief by me that the experiences that truly change you are the ones that actually hurt. They're not the ones that pass by unnoticed. You might be victorious in the moment and be, yes, like I won that thing, that's great. But that is fleeting. It doesn't change you. It just confirms what you already knew, right? That confirmation bias starts to kick in then. And we become convinced that our way is the right way. I mean, at the other end of the spectrum, it can cause a certain level of complacency, I guess. But where the loss is, where the pain, where the hurt, where the emotions drying up, when you're searching for the source of them in somebody else is an issue. Then we come to this point of understanding. Like I said, we may not understand everything in its entirety, but the notion that we must understand becomes the thing that goes over the top. Oh, I can't fucking talk, falling over my tongue today. It's not about what you understand initially. It's about the understanding that you must understand. Let's put it like that. Because when you understand and when you reseat that Ace of Cups within you rather than in somebody else, healing begins to happen. It's possible for you to look at situations much more objectively than you have done before and assess your part in it and other people's part in it. Put everything in the right place in your head. And I think that's important, Cancer. And I actually really, really love the fact that the swords and the water are kind of coming to a place where they're beginning to work together for you. Now, when we move into your current energy, we have the first of 2 nines, and that feels to me to be very important. If you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know that I consider the nines to be the personal management of whatever suit it is that they represent. So the 9 of Cups for me is about the way that you manage your emotions. And we can talk about all other things that stem from that, like your, this is sometimes called the wish card, right? So your highest goals, hopes, dreams, aspirations, those kind of things. What it is that makes you feel emotionally fulfilled. What fills up all of your cups. But in order to get to that kind of place, you also have to know where your emotions are ruling you rather than the other way around, right? Particularly if you define yourself by your emotions, which is highly likely with a water sign. It's that kind of separation a little bit and going, well, these emotions can kind of fly by, but they're not static. They do not remain static within me. My emotions can change on the situation. And it's the way that I manage my emotional well-being that dictates whether I perceive joy, I perceive gratitude, I have gratitude, whether I perceive the things around me that are good, or whether I focus on the things around me that are negative and that are not feeding me in the way that I want them to. It's a very empowered position to be in. And you seem to me to be very, very concerned with keeping your emotions in hand, in check, right? I rule my emotions. I dictate what it is that I'm going to respond to rather than being emotionally reactive about things. And again, just as we saw with the Ace of Cups in reverse, we've got the Queen of Pentacles in reverse. And I think this is really telling because where this might be, the seat of your emotional well-being, the place where the compassion, the forgiveness, the love should emanate from, right? We've realized that it was seated in other people. So the practical aspects of caring for yourself, nurturing yourself, and investing in yourself have been absent. And I'm not going to say like right up until now, to the point where you're actually watching this reading. I think we're back to this idea of contemplation of this fact, trying to make sense of it all here. The Queen of Pentacles is Capricorn energy, but for me it speaks to the act of self-care, right? If the queens are the internal subjective experience of something, and there's varying degrees of subjectivity and objectivity contained within that subjective position, then when you realize that these two fundamental ideas of emotional well-being and this ever springing well of yourself that you can tap into, and then the more practical concerns about how it is that you invest in yourself, whether it is financially, perhaps you want to do a course and you're like, I can't really afford it, and stuff like that. But there's something about this that will grow you as a person, or it will grow your ability to be able to, create more pentacles, whether that is time, care, effort, money, love, energy generally, right? These are all wrapped up in the pentacle suit for me. It's realizing that you kind of kneecapped yourself at times. Like, again, this is another realization that it's sometimes quite difficult to reconcile with yourself, because these two cards here do represent a degree of self-sabotage, and we like to think that we're always doing the right thing by ourselves, by other people, right? We like to be the hero in our own story, but when we realize that we're treating the protagonist in our own story, which is us, as an absolute scumbag sometimes, that inner critic can be really quite vocal, we realise how many opportunities we have actually cut ourselves off from. We realise how many opportunities could have gone an entirely different way had we responded differently. Perhaps if we hadn't been choked up in our feelings, we could have seen, a different version of reality than the one that we thought we were experiencing. And I love the fact that there's so much responsibility being taken here for the things that are important to you. The investment in self, the emotional well-being, all those kind of things. And we have here the Ace of Wands. And the Ace of Wands feels like truly an absolute resolution to do things differently moving forwards. I think what we're seeing here is a movement out of the contemplation, speculation kind of phase into one where clarity is beginning to dawn. There is a way of doing things now that is occurring to you that you did not see before. And the Ace of Wands is the perfect initiation of that. It's like, I am literally going to do things differently. I am going to experience things differently. I am motivated to explore what the world has to offer from an entirely different internal perspective now. It's this beautiful kind of feedback loop that's going on. Feedback loops aren't always great, but you're feeding yourself now, Cancer. And I love the way that this follows on so naturally from the content of last month's reading, this magician, the essence of the magician permeating through all of this, because you don't need external situations to change to allow you to feel better. Right? This is a really important part of this. It's like, you can decide to feel better about things. Put all the stuff in the right place in your head. Own it all. I fucked up there, absolutely shot myself in my own kneecaps here. I understand now that that is not the kind of behaviour that causes me to grow. It's not the kind of behaviour that calls towards me the kind of beautiful experiences that I want to be part of my life, right? That I want to manifest for myself. And so, yeah, like I said, it's this huge resolution that things are going to be different moving forwards. And the energy of movement then permeates the whole of July for you. From this initiation, We have the Nine of Wands with the Three of Wands and the King of Wands. We have the Four of Wands at the bottom of the deck. The Four of Wands is the creation of a new foundation, right? These wands are all absolutely working in alignment here. They're like, it's about the experiences, you know. I think the wand suit represents your very vital force, and it seems to me that you found a way to channel it now. That allows you to start thinking about doing things differently, and doing things differently is high on the list of priorities. Because like I said, this Tower is like, I'm going in a totally different direction. 2 months ago, 3 months ago, perhaps the way forward was not as clear as it appears now. But having sorted out a lot of internal chaos, seated it in the right place in your head, and all getting very tidy in there now as you begin to understand yourself. You're like, right, it's almost like you're kind of cracking your knuckles and being like, right, what does the rest of the world have for me to experience? And we move to the Nine of Wands. Now, you look at that card, and sometimes it looks a little bit, well, the dude's looking all fucked up, look, right? He's leaning on a wand, and he's got a bandaged head and a bandaged arm and all that sort of thing, and we go, oh, God, that doesn't feel very, very comfortable. But think about what I was saying about the management of the suit that it represents when it's numbered 9. What we have here is the wands. There's the management of your personal experience. There's a management of your force, whatever that is. But we also have those other meanings of the management of your boundaries, perhaps, right? We're going to work on those, and we're going to make those a little bit better. But your resilience generally, you know, when you understand that life is something that happens for you, not to you, it's a very nuanced shift, but it's one that actually precipitates a whole new level of potential entering your life, because that means that every experience that you have had has been given to you so that you can process it, understand it, take some wisdom from it, and grow. And each time you do that, it gets you a little bit more in alignment with where it is that you're supposed to be. And it's also the thing that makes you resilient. Like, I use this example a lot, or at least I have done in the last 4 years, right? But consider the difference between, say, an orchid and, I don't know, this mullein I've got out in the garden, right, or a dandelion or something like that. The orchid needs, you know, very specific conditions. You know, it needs a certain amount of humidity, and its soil has to be a certain, you know, moisture level. It needs to be a certain temperature, or otherwise this thing will just keel over and die, right? It won't flower, it won't give you this you know, beautiful bloom. Whereas, you know, staring at my rather overgrown patch just there, there's a resilience to all of the plants that are in the garden here. It's not temperature controlled. The humidity is not controlled. The level of moisture in the soil is not controlled, and yet still they thrive. Now, there's millions of years of evolution in plants that have caused them to be able to adapt to certain situations. You know, everything that the plant species has experienced has allowed it to modify itself to be more suited to its environment. And it feels like that's what you're starting to see about you. Resilience is a good thing, and you cannot be resilient without the experiences that give you that internal strength, right? That give you the ability to be adaptable and mutable and whatnot. I mean, the Nine of Wands is a Sagittarius card, so there's a mutability about that, as well as the movement. We have the Three of Wands and the King of Wands. Now, in any given situation where the Ace of Wands appears, I think it's always a lovely thing when one of the courts hierarchy of the corresponding suit also shows up too. And given whatever level it is of court hierarchy that shows up, it shows you whereabouts on the path of being able to do this thing being able to engage with this Ace of Wands you actually are. So if the page showed up, it would be like, all right, okay, well, it's time to start beginning the process of thinking about what this big change of direction would be for you. And so on, you know, we move through the suit. When we get to the King, it's just about action. It's pure, it's not pure action, actually. So the Knight of Wands would be just pure action. It would be taking off. It would be being, you know, immediately responsive, very spontaneous, jumping up on opportunities and all that kind of thing. The energy of the King of Wands is much more measured because he is, you know, he's a progressed knight, essentially, right? He's reached the epitome of his suit. So it's about action, yes, but it's also about a corresponding amount of wisdom and responsibility and maturity that goes along with that. So it's not about fighting for fighting's sake or you know, pursuing something for the sake of the hunt, almost. It's like, no, I have broken all of this down and this makes sense to me now. Here's my energy of initiation. Here's the resilience and the stamina that I have developed in order to be able to do this thing. And obviously, Cancer, whenever we're talking about you, boundaries are always going to come up as a really significant aspect of your dealings with everybody else in the world. But even this Three of Wands here, you know, what's missing from that little progression there is the Two of Wands. It is the internal contemplation of what you're going to do next. We've skipped that step because I think that what you've actually been concentrating on is the obstacles to you doing that thing rather than whether you want to do a thing at all. And we're straight to the movement. We're straight to the, yes, I can action this. Like the threes, for me, sit outside of you. It's about the external action that you take to do a thing. And it's being overseen by the King of Wands. Shadow card at the bottom of the deck is the Four of Wands. This is what you're interested in, the creation of a new foundation. And in order to make an omelette, you're going to have to break some eggs. And I think that you are more than ready to do that. Now, you know, with the amount of wands here, I mean, some of you might be thinking about travelling, right? We've got to throw that in because it's a thing. There's always movement and motion wherever the wands show up. But I mean, this could be about your fitness levels, what it is that you choose to exercise your body with. You know, you could be taking up some sort of sport, yoga, Pilates, something like that. I mean, there's a high degree of physicality whenever the wands are involved. It's about movement and it's about action and it's about using your body to do it. But I feel like all of the other elements are now playing a supportive role in the kind of life changes that you're wanting to bring about. Now, regardless of whether you're taking up something physical or whether you're going travelling or anything like that, what is absolutely certain is that your life force seems to be pushing in a particular direction. And I don't think that you are prepared to allow yourself to sabotage yourself anymore. I don't think that you're prepared to allow other people to tell you what to do either, which is quite interesting because there might have been a time where you looked to other people and said, okay, I sort of want to do this, but first I need to know how this is going to affect you. And if they show anything other than abject support, then you might go, well, maybe it's not such a good idea, you know? Or maybe they do show absolute, you know, fervent support, but maybe there's a little bit of subtext in there that you've just picked up that you don't quite understand, and maybe it's better if you just don't do this thing. I'm not saying you're indecisive, Cancer, because I think you're far from it. There's a lot of passion in you. I think that's a thing that gets overlooked quite often. You know, it tends to be very directed. It tends to be very focused. It tends to come to the surface when it's in... when you're looking to protect those that you love, right? That's the thing that seems to come up every time with Cancer, right? In defense of their family, in defense of their friends, in defense of people that they care about. Cancers are, you know, powerful as fuck. What's been missing is that understanding that you're part of that family too, from an energetic perspective, right? I'm always banging on about becoming your own best friend. It's these kind of situations that I'm talking about. Like, there's so much life force in you. And it's been squeezed out in lots and lots of different directions, right? These energy leaks where other people are the be-all and end-all of whether you do a thing. And I think what you haven't been able to do for the longest time is channel your own creativity into something that you want, something that makes sense for you, regardless of what other people think. And it's not to say, if you're in an established family unit with young children, you can't suddenly decide that you're going to go travelling for 6 months and leave your spouse to look after your kids or something like that. I'm not talking about those kind of energies. I'm talking about the difference between being selfish and being aware that yourself has needs. Because you've been chucking so many fucking rocks and boulders and all sorts of things in your path for your entire life that it seems like anything to do with you and yourself has always been problematic. It's always been something that's ended badly. Now, with this little shift in your awareness of self, maybe you're coming to a point where you're starting to see that you're your own best friend and things like that. We've got the wisdom and the maturity and the responsibility of the King of Wands showing up here, being like, right, there are things that are needed from me, there are things that are required from me by, the collective and whatever, but there are also things that I require. And I'm going to make those happen. I think the thing with the thing that really stands out for me in the King of Wands, and that's Leo energy, by the way, is timing. Right? It's that sense of something which begins to be developed in the Knight of Wands, right? The opportunistic, kind of spontaneous dive on this thing as it happens. Here it's much more measured, like I'm not going to move until I know that it's absolutely correct. And there's a confidence that comes from understanding why you're making a move and perhaps having practiced it quite a lot. Maybe there's been a lot of practicing on boundaries and things like that, so that when it's needed, you know exactly when to employ it. I mean, that could be the thing as well. Like, the thing with boundaries is they sound like they should be very simple to erect and all that kind of thing, but sometimes we put a boundary up and then we don't realise that people have transgressed it before it's too late, and then we look at it and we go, right, not only did I not maintain my boundary, but perhaps it was in the wrong place in the first place. Maybe it needed to be a little bit closer to me. Maybe it needed to be a little bit further out, By the time you get to the King of Wands understands that. He gets it, he knows it, and when necessary, he can take the action when it needs to happen. So between the Four of Wands and the Tower here, I'm not sure what it is that you have planned, Cancer, but it does feel like it's sending you off a good 90 degrees away from the path that you have been on prior to all of this happening here. And it feels very exciting. And lots of movement, lots of activity, lots of things going on, lots of doing by you. But with all of the other elements sitting in the supporting role exactly where they should be in order to make this happen. So, and like I said, only that is a major arcana. This is not life throwing shit at you and you having to react or respond or anything like that. This is pure focus, Cancer, and I really, really like that. It feels to me like you're actually getting a taste of how creative and how powerful you are. And you feel like you're in possession of self, which I think is magnificent if you keep doing that. So I'm going to go over to the extended now. If you'd like to join me, join me over at Vimeo or over on Circle. Either of those will do. If you don't want to do that, that's absolutely fine. No problem at all. Courage of your convictions this month, Cancer. If you feel it, if you feel the drive, if you feel the passion, if you feel an outlet of creativity starting to build within you, don't push it down. Let it out. See where it takes you. Because it might surprise you, but it might not. It might just be a change in direction that you've been trying to propagate for a while. Alright, I shall leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.